All right, audio is hot. I forgot my script. All right, buckle up for another episode of Chicago's podcast, The Vintage House Show. Good evening. It's your main man Mega, and I am here with super duper producer Lauren Lowry, and you're tuned in to another exciting and intriguing and engaging and any other adjective you want to think of on a Wednesday night episode of the Vintage House Show, the Philosophical Grooves edition. We're without our co-host Lori Branch tonight, but she sends her regards to everyone watching, and more importantly, we have two special guests leading up to this weekend's highly anticipated, first of its kind, Chosen Few virtual festival. We have with us tonight Kim Parham, and Kim, we go back, we go way back. And Lehia Franklin Acox. How are you, Lehia?
I'm present and accounted for.
Present and accounted for. And Kim, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. We're thrilled to have you guys. Look, I'm going to apologize now. I've taken these key individuals who are deep in the trenches of producing the show away from their production time, just so that they could share with you, our audience, insights about who they are, right? Because they're clearly important players in this event that we all love and will miss being together in person for, but they are working, as they always do, incredibly hard to produce an experience that will not let anyone down. This experience is sure to be memorable, and without the physical contact, but with the same spirit that has been the Chosen Few picnic and festival for over 30 years. So I know you want to hear more from them, but I just want to remind you all that you're listening to Vintage House, which is the show produced and powered by the Dance Music Research and Archiving Foundation, and it's the only on-air show and podcast dedicated to illuminating and preserving the lives, music, and careers of house music legends and contributors. We are also the only repository in the United States dedicated solely to the study, preservation, and the celebration of house and dance music. We want you to preserve your memories and memorabilia so that the story of house music never dies. So with that, let's get into it with Kim and Lehia. They're bringing their bright smiles despite all of the work that's going on in their head as we begin this interview. But Kim, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about your roots. Who is Kim Parham? Where are you from, Kim Parham?
How far do you want me to go back?
We usually spend a little bit of time talking about the good old high school days, because that's when a lot of this started for us.
Yeah. So, Chicago born and raised. And really, I grew up with Alan, Wayne, Tony, Jesse, and Andre, Terry and Mike Dunn later. But my high school years, I grew up with those guys, going to all of the relevant house music parties, and literally that's how I got introduced to house music. Met, I think I met Jesse first, believe it or not, and started going to parties, and then met everybody else. And I laugh because I think probably my sophomore and junior year of high school, would go to all the local parties in South Commons. Like, I don't know, Kevin, if you remember that.
Goody
We used to
Fest. Yeah. Of course I remember.
yeah, parties in the Highlands and basement parties. And then when
In
we started moving
Beverly.
up, getting a little older and going to Sours and all that, I used to, getting parties free because I would just be that girl. They used to hand me the crate of records. And I would walk in behind everybody else and please give me a crate. I don't have to pay $5 to get no. but that's what I did. But anyway, yeah. So I grew up with the guys, and that's where I think I really got introduced to house music and fell in love with house music. I did not go to high school in Hyde Park. So I went to high school in Morgan Park, and I lived out in Beverly, but I spent all my time on the east side of Chicago in Hyde Park and the Highlands, going to all these parties. And once it was, house music was so centralized at that time in high school to a smaller group. And, my friends at my high school didn't know what was going on. I was like, y'all don't know. Y'all just don't know. Um, and I was living like a double life. I would go to my regular high school, and then on the weekends I was out. But anyway, so yeah, that's how I kind of was introduced to house music. And through Jesse, I met Tony, and then of course Tony's brother Andre, and then I met Alan from DJing, and Wayne was always around. And then that's how we all became pretty close friends.
Okay, I've got one question that I have to ask. Um, there was a party in Beverly
Oh no.
with someone had a bowling alley in their basement. Was that your place?
No. So
Was
that
whose
was my
place was that?
friend Jackie, who
Oh,
lived maybe around the corner, Jackie Palmer. And yeah, she had a full blown, like, she had a nice house, full blown. Her basement was ginormous, and she had a 2-lane bowling alley in her basement. I did have a party, and in Beverly. I had my own party,
okay,
and yeah, it wasn't in her basement. It was in
okay.
my basement, and I told my mother it was only going to be 50 people. Meanwhile, it was like 250 people, and that was the last party I ever had. And
Yep.
you probably would have
I
had
was.
something.
I'm pretty sure I was there. I had to get that question in there,
Yeah,
and
not my bowling alley, but there was a party. I think Jackie did have a party, and yeah, that was her house.
okay, because that was one of the many memorable ones, and the Morgan Park crew, I'm sure, appreciates you representing tonight. Many of our faithful viewers are Morgan Park folks, so good beginnings, and the fact that the guys sort of adopted you and brought you into the crew, that's an important point we're going to come back to. But first, we want to get perspective from Lehia and her early days, high school or earlier, wherever you want to go with that.
She's a force.
Well, so I find it so fascinating that Chicago people of middle age and beyond are so still tied to their high schools and the communities the bonds that they formed then, because that's not necessarily how a lot of other places deal with, like, people are incredulous about Chicago people caring about what high school you went to 40, 30, 50 years after the fact. So I was born in Chicago, but we moved to a little town called Holland, Michigan in the mid 70s when I was just starting school. But being that my parents were born and raised in Chicago and their parents were there and my aunts and uncles were there, I spent, I'd say, at least a portion of most of my summers in Chicago, both as a child,
Hmm.
but then really more importantly as a teen in the early 80s, where I would hear these whispers from older cousins about this these parties that my sister and I never could quite get to because we were young teens and we didn't have a car. And just a little background about my family. One of the so I have, I guess, two pods of siblings. The brothers I grew up with in Michigan, who are my mother and my father who raised me, their children. And then my biological father's children, and we kind of all met up in the summertime at our grandparents' house. And one of those siblings, the fabulous Marina Franklin, yes, I'm totally name dropping my sister because she's a fabulous comedian and you should totally go watch her comedy special, Big Black
Absolutely.
Female. And she's also a big house music fan. But anyway, she and I would, because our dad was an active bachelor who was dating the ladies back in the 80s, we had a lot of free time on our hands.
Yeah.
And so we were able to finesse our way. Like, our dad wasn't as strict as our mothers, and my other dad was back in Michigan about where we, our whereabouts. And I think there was a fair amount, it was a different time. Like, I have a 13
Absolutely.
year old now, and if she were to come to me and say, oh, yeah, I want to go to this sketchy area of town to go to this warehouse party, um, yeah, there aren't enough shoes in my closet to throw at her in response to that. But it was a different time, and somehow we found out my very first house music experience that I can remember all these years later was the hotel. Was it Intercontinental?
Yes, on Michigan Avenue.
Yeah, on Michigan Avenue. I think it was maybe Lil Lewis did a party,
Yeah.
and I remember it just felt like I was like one of those sci-fi movies where like the spaceship opens and you kind of get sucked in to the thing. And that was my introduction to, like, my formal introduction to the music beyond hearing my cousins talk about it or hearing, I don't know, were the Hot Mix 5 happening by that
Yes.
then?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah.
And so that was my and it's so funny because years later I was under the false impression that um, as an 80s baby that we were on the vanguard of house music, not realizing that you all who are just a little bit older than us, but I mean now that stuff, those age differences matter not at all. But when we were younger, somebody who was 2 years older than you or 5 years older than you or 7 years older than you, they had a completely different experience because they had access to things that we did not. So, and we didn't know people, like, because we didn't. My sister lived in the south suburbs. I lived in Michigan. We didn't know people at Chicago high school, so we kind of had to like keep our ear to the street a little bit. And I still don't know how we found out about that party, that Lil Louis party.
There was no
But from then
social
on,
media or anything then.
huh?
There were street signs
Yeah,
that was
maybe that
social
was it
media.
because that was, yeah, the light poles were very
Yes.
much a party directory for us, because we weren't necessarily plugged into high school networks because my sister was at, I think, Rich East or whatever, and they, if you think that the kids in Beverly didn't know what was going on, her I mean it caught on much later. So we got to, that was our first experience. And our father at the time, I don't know if he was still living downtown or if he had moved to Lincoln Park by that time. So that gave us another little bit of freedom because, we had the ability to go to some of these things like the Powerhouse, which was in the South Loop,
Hmm.
and because we couldn't get to, like, I, yeah, we were going to try to take a cab to Mendel once, but we we're like, we don't have enough money to
That
go
that was a big cab
from
fare, yeah.
Diversey and Clark to wherever Mendel was and back.
In
So
Pullman, right?
we had to kind of
111th.
stay around the north side and near south stuff. Um, and I don't know, it just became, it was something that was just an outgrowth of listening to records in the basement with my father in Michigan. He was big, jazz, funk, disco, blues. a little orchestral music here and there. So hearing that stuff as a kid and then hearing it, at the Intercontinental kind of in a different form with a lot of bass was life changing for me as a young kid who didn't really fit in anywhere.
uh, Amazing stories and great sharing. Thank you for setting the stage for clearly how you both um, became immersed in this lifestyle, this genre, and I think you guys have gone even a lot further than most, right? Because it's become an integral part of something you do that, you know, 40, 50,000 people in person typically get to experience. And this year, I'm sure we'll probably get, you know, twice that in terms of virtual engagement around
Yeah.
it because the accessibility, the geography is taken out of the equation. Um, what is it about the music? I mean, we've talked about your upbringing, right, and the experience, the opportunity as a teen or adolescent, even to sort of get out, maybe be a little rebellious and um, defy the protective covering of parents or the lack thereof sometimes. What is it about the music itself that has endeared you to house versus becoming obsessed with hip hop or R&B or funk?
Hmm.
Um, let's see. For me in high school, there was um, a certain freedom in terms of dancing and the experience of those parties um, that I had never experienced before. And so in high school, it was just unreal. I mean, I would do my hair and spend time on myself, and I would lead a party with a fro, and my clothes were wet, and I mean, and you just had the time of your life, and you just were so free and so, and the music was just so freeing to me, and it oops, I'm sorry, there's a fireworks thing going on over here. I
Oh
hope.
wow.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, we
yeah,
can
we're one of
hear
those cities that's happening in. It's not happening near you.
real time. July 1st, 2020,
I
fireworks
know.
are in
Yeah,
effect.
it starts every night around 9 o'clock.
So,
It's really going over here, you guys. And then it probably I would say in my later years, and particularly as the picnic emerged, one of the things that I always say about house music is it is truly the music of love and peace. If you've ever attended our event or what you all have, but everybody is always happy. Sometimes I would say that, the day of 9/11, people were a little nicer to each other than they had ever been in their lives, right? Because we all thought we were going to die. At the Chosen Few
yes.
Music Picnic and Festival, people come with just such a sense of love and happiness and togetherness and it's about the music and it's about the community. And I always would say that if when we talk about the growth of the picnic, I would always say that people say, "How'd you get so big?" And I said, "Well, first of all, it's the music, and second of all, it's the relationships that you have and foster. So once you come to a picnic, usually somebody brings one person, and then that person that they bring is like, oh my God. And then they come back next year with another person, and that person is like, oh my God. And then they bring two more people, and those people just stay. And so there's a house community, but
Yeah.
there's also a family community, which I think house music really embraces, and that's one of the reasons why I think in the 30 years that we've been doing this, we've never had a real incidence of violence because people come to our music festival to have a wonderful freeing dance music experience that and they leave, and all of that kind of controversy and violence is not what we do. And that's one of the reasons why I think I have loved, house music and what it brings to people for so long. So two different experiences. One's freeing when I was young, and then just the ability of just watching the love and growth as we became a more uh, really formed an actual event. Beautiful thing.
Freeing is absolutely a powerful description of the music, and certainly the relationship to the festival. Community being that second um, provocative word around the power of this experience. Lehia, can you talk about your relationship to music and how that ties into your point of view on the festival?
Sure. Just to piggyback off, man, Kim, that wine looks good. Sorry. It looks so good.
A toast.
Meanwhile, I'm sipping my old lady tea over here, trying to clear up my throat. But anyway, I'm sorry. When you said freeing, that really resonates with me. Both thinking back on me as a kid and being from, like I said, this blended family, which is so common now, but was less common then. Being someone who felt like I was not from anywhere because my roots are in Chicago, but then we moved to Michigan for my dad's job. Then we moved to Jersey, which was interesting for me because there it was club music.
Yeah.
And I was super proud to be a place that, like, no, y'all. This is how. And if anyone from Morristown High School is listening or watching, you were a band geek like me. You remember us listening to house music tapes that I got from Chicago on the back of the band bus, because that's where the black kids in the marching band, we sat there and we wanted to rock out to our house music and a little hip hop and whatever. And so house music was this thing that didn't care what high school like it was a way to be in community even with people I didn't know, even as a kid. And for my sister Marina and I, it was interesting because the music was a big draw, but so were all the cute boys of Chicago who were at the parties. And quite honestly, back in the day, young ladies were not trying to like make friends with us. So the people who did make friends with us were dudes. And we wound up actually, I'm married to a person that I wound up meeting at a house club. And
a house love story, yes.
Up in our wedding were people who I met. As a matter of fact, if it hadn't been for the Edge of the Looking Glass one night in the early 90s, I would have ever connected with my husband, because it turns out that we, from hanging out at Cole Park, where his best friend's grandma lived across the street and my grandparents were at 83rd and Vernon. So we went there as children but didn't know each other. We went to different parties and whatever but didn't know each other. But it was house music that brought us together. So of course, guess what we played at our wedding reception and had people do all that? It's the house music.
Dance.
So I've instructed my children very, very clearly about what I want at my memorial service. First, I want a low version of Mighty Real, the gospel version of that's how I'll bring it in, and then we're just going to turn it into a party, which is I'm sorry, I'm veering a little bit, but I would be remiss to not mention this, and this is that unfortunately today is the second anniversary of one of my very best friends passing, Cynthia Jackson Jones, and she was one of those people who, when we brought her to the picnic, then it was like, oh, like everybody gets turned out, right? When you come to the picnic. I got turned out my first time.
Yeah.
And I brought a few people with me the first time. Then I brought a tent city of people. Because was it my second time? Maybe that was when we knew I'm a former Girl Scout and a total nerd, so I knew we were going to have rain that year, so I bought a tent. I was one of the few people who had a tent out there, and that thing almost blew over, but we, a whole bunch of us crammed in that thing, and then after that, Tent City was born. But anyway,
that was behind the museum days.
She had us she had 50 people out there the next year, and we had a near professional organization with the food, the drinks, and all of those things, and just hundreds of people who would wind up stopping by our tent throughout the day. And she brought those people. We brought her. She brought those people. They brought people. They brought people, and so on and so on and so on. And now here we are, 30 years later. And so I think that I really that's my very long-winded way of echoing what Kim said about both the freedom and the community. And for me, house music, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, has been a lifesaver through some really difficult times. Being on the dance floor, which I don't get to do very much anymore, is just, I say, one of the only places I feel really at peace and really free. Not necessarily at the Chosen Few picnic, though, because I'm running around like a whirling dervish, doing 79 different things.
But
which,
this brings up a great question. What is it
kick out of seeing other people
that you do
experience those moments of freedom? Because as we're running back and forth on the stage or whatever, we're seeing everybody get their life, and it's just
I love that. Get their life.
And it's how crazy it is. It's just such a beautiful blessing to be in a small part of bringing that kind of joy to other people, especially. We're open to all, but I love that we have such a love for and celebration of our people, of Black people, and that this is a place of Black joy and love, because we have so few places where we can be really free and just love on one another to the tune of 40 or 50,000 people.
You are clearly a big part of this, and we're half an hour through the show.
Oh my God, really?
We have not asked the question, what is your specific role? And we'll start with Lehia. I know you wear many hats, I'm sure, but as we promoted the show, we talked about having two of the key business leaders associated with the Chosen Few Festival on tonight. So tell us, what is the formal business responsibility that you have associated with the festival?
I think my formal title is probably Jack of all trades, but no, seriously, I'm the publicist for the Chosen Few DJs and have had that honor since 2012, I think, was my first picnic that I worked for you all.
7 years, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because, in 2011, I brought my 6-week infant child to the Chosen Few picnic, because that's what a nut of a fan that I am.
That's the community
just
that
it is. Don't bring a newborn to the Chosen Few picnic. FYI, But yeah, so I've been working with the Chosen Few since 2012, and before that, I think my first year was maybe in the early 2000s because of my relationship with Alan King, who I met through a now defunct website called the Deep House Page. And I think the Deep House Page is actually one of the catalysts that helped bring this to the rest of the world, because those of us who had maybe driven by the Chosen Few picnic when it was behind the museum but didn't really know what it was or know people that were at the picnic, through the Deep House Page, now we had a date, time, and place, and an invitation from Alan. So we showed up, and then we showed out, and then old people like us got on Facebook, and then that's when I think that was the year that we had to get on the move, right, Kim? When those aunts. But anyway, back to what I do. So if you've seen the Chosen Few on radio, on television, in newspapers, on podcasts, not to toot my own horn, but that's a lot of what I do, is to tell the story of the Chosen Few picnic and say why it's important that we have this gathering, and why the economic impact that we have on the city, and the cultural impact that we have on the music and the culture. And I work with media to get them to tell our story, like the Chicago Reader just did today. Shameless plug. Did a really good job.
Go out and get the Reader.
Always do, talking about us. And shout out to Leor Galil, the writer from the Reader, that gets it, because I think that sometimes the South Side stories of Chicago, the positive stories, don't easily get told by mainstream media. And so it's really important to identify allies who get it and are willing to use their platform to help you tell your story. And so that's one of my main jobs. The other main job is the social media piece. So the Instagram channels, the Facebook, all that good stuff. It's my job to populate that with interesting material and content. I also have spun off into customer service and ticketing management. Sometimes I'm the backstage concierge for the various A, B, C, D, Z list folks who show up and want to be accommodated in our famous backstage area. But really, kind of, I think, like most of the team, we kind of we have our lane, but we all do what we need to do to make sure that people have a good time, and that that we keep going each year.
And we appreciate you for that. It's certainly the crew at the Vintage House show has been a benefactor of your not only your concierge generosity, but certainly from a amplification of the story that is the Chosen Few Festival. We've been privileged to be able to get access to the performers, to the DJs, to the backstage venue, to be able to help amplify that story. So we certainly appreciate that, and
we appreciate you all. Thank you. You get it. You're one of us. Yeah. And you get it, and we don't have to explain it and why this is important.
Absolutely.
You all tell the stories, and that's just so.
Lauren and I camped out there. I think last year we were there, and we published some great interviews of the award winners. And of course, our colleague Lori Branch was on the lineup last
year. And she turned it out.
Yeah, as she does.
She turned it out early.
And so we want to hear about the formal role of one Kim Parham as well, because we know that you play a critical and vital role.
So let me say this. From the very beginning, when we first started, I would say my role was all other. So whatever, I said, like, what do you do? Anything that anybody else doesn't do. It's anything. And when we first started 30 years ago, I was, Alan and I would go rent tables, and I would go get the permit, and, and then Tony's, sister worked for waste management, so she would help us with the portable toilets, and then I would get up at 4 a.m. and sit in a, I wouldn't do that today, but I would sit in an empty, behind the museum, kind of staking our spot, because on the 4th of July weekend, back in the old days, they would not issue a permit on the 4th of July weekend. So it was first come, first serve. So in an effort to secure our spot, I would get up at the crack of dawn and sit in the dark in the chair outside. And then Tony would show up in the portable toilets, and then Tony Hatchin and I, we used to go shopping at Sam's Club. I used to cook. When the event first started, I used to cook all day. I'd be on the grill. So it was because that's when it was, obviously much smaller. We weren't charging, and it was more of a picnic type of festivity. As we grew in popularity and in people, we realized as a team that, just so and I know Kevin, this, and Lehia and Lauren, you may all know this, that, we used to put this festival on, with our own money. We paid, because it was a labor of love, and we just got to keep doing it. We were having so much fun, but as it got bigger, I remember one year we had to pay for portable toilets, and I think I had to put like $10,000 on my American Express card, and I was like, I love y'all, I really do. However, how are we gonna pay for this? Because I think that was one of the first years that we had gotten a sponsor, and it ended up being okay. But we used to pass the hat before we started charging. I don't know if you remember the buckets. So I would go out. I mean, I'm telling you, I did everything. They bought me one of those hats with the light on it, so I would be, counting singles and paying the sound guy, like, we need $300. And I'm like, wait, I said, we short. Somebody has to go back out with the bucket and get some more. So to answer your question, early on it was all other. That's how I would describe my role.
Okay.
The only thing I did not do was DJ. Did not do that, but did everything else. As we grew and became larger and became a formal event, my role became kind of managing logistics and also managing sponsorship, and and there is still an all other aspect, like, and even with Lee, like, we pitch in where we need to be. So, managing VIP and, working with the production company on the setup and the site map. And so, there's a variety of things. And even the DJs, will branch out and do some of the, all other work as well. But my main role is to kind of manage the sponsorship, logistics, and some of the VIP now set up and work is related to that. So yeah, everything.
The reason we have that fly VIP viewing stand is because of Kim, I would say, right? Like, that's, and we need a double. I'm gonna say it publicly. We need a double one. We need one on both sides of the stage.
Get some symmetry going on the festival grounds there. So,
what you said?
To get some symmetry going.
Yeah. Well, yes, and people have. I think that's the cool thing about the picnic, right? You can come there with one chair and a cooler, or not even a cooler, or you could come with a big tent or whatever, or you could get sick of that after a while and decide you want to do the VIP thing and leave the cooking and the drinks to us. And that's been great because more and more people, especially as we've had people come in from out of town, and they've wanted to do the VIP. And we've worked with, I remember a group, and God rest this woman's soul, what was her name, Tiffany. She brought a group of Black real estate professionals from Dallas one year, and just like, they wanted to, remember when we did the cabanas thing and everybody wanted to have their little cabana thing. But the problem is, once they saw that VIP viewing stand, Kim, everybody wants to be on the viewing stand, not back in the cabana. So I think that I just want to add that Kim, she cannot overstate her importance to what the picnic is. Like, there would not be the picnic without everything that she does. And I don't know that she ever hears this publicly a lot. And I know that the team loves her, but I think it's really important to give her that just due. And she is really the backbone of the event. Thank God for Wayne starting, those a few DJs and all that. And thank God for the guys for the music, because we need it, we love it. But the picnic, that event, is a Kim Parham production. And I just think that that's important to know.
And of course, here on the In the Child Show, we clearly recognize the importance, as we wanted and felt it important to have your narrative shared as we come upon this year's event, both of you. And I have a personal affinity, because Kim has always been supportive of my efforts to support the festival, particularly when I was with Ebony and Jet. And
I still have my poster, Kevin.
All right. Don't let the guys.
Poster? What poster?
Don't let them con you out of that. Well, Lehia, we'll work on something.
Okay.
We will bring some equilibrium. But yes, there are many stories of appreciation and affinity, and I know you. This continues to be really a labor of love for you all, as much as it is work and an opportunity. Can you talk about or pick from the on-site, festival, in-person festival, what one of the most enjoyable aspects of the picnic is? We talked a little about this in the pre-show.
I will say this. I don't get to maybe enjoy, like, the talent as much now, because I'm, working or doing something. And so, I miss a lot. So before we, became as large as we were, and the picnic was very small and behind the museum, even though I did all other, once I did all other, and, the music started, I really was in it. And so, I probably would say that I had, like the time of my like life. I
Yeah.
mean, I just, because I wasn't working as much.
Certainly.
And not saying that I don't, trust me, there are always, and Leah and we always have a hug on stage every year when we realize, because, the night before, 2 nights before, 3 nights before, I'm always like, oh my God, is this going to work? Is something going to work? Something's going to happen. And it always comes together.
Yeah.
And so every year there's this incredible moment where she and I will be on the stage, and it'll be a performance or a DJ, and we'll look out at the crowd and we hug and we say, yeah, I'm tired, I'm sweating, I'm this, I'm that, but look how amazing, this event, turns out. They used to tease me in the early years because every year, for some reason, I would cry at a picnic. Not because something, sometimes it would just be so amazing. I would get on the stage and be like, oh my God, look at everybody. They look wonderful. And they would teach, oh, Kim is crying, something. It's like, it's not a picnic until KP, sheds a little tear. But now every year I try to, take that moment and make sure that in all the running around that, I get on the stage to have some of that experience. So if you ask me, like, what was my favorite time, I would have to say kind of, pre-growth. Like, so in our earlier days, because I was much more in it and not of it. Now I get my special moments, but, it's difficult when you're working a festival, to be a guest, because you just don't get that opportunity. So I always try, to make it. But at the end of the night, every year somebody said, did you see something? Oh my God. And I was like, when did that happen?
Right.
Yeah. Somebody in a portable toilet. Like, I missed all of that. Yes. I was giving somebody directions, or in last year I was helping somebody in an ambulance. I mean, it's just, it's because we do all other. So, I always manage to have a moment every year, because it's important that I do that. But if you ask me what my favorite is, I would have to say that the early years were probably more fun for me, just because I didn't have to do any work. And once I did my work, it was like done.
Yeah.
And then everybody was just like, do your own thing. We didn't have, security and gates and tickets and, all that. All I had to do was kind of just smile at the police when they came. Okay, we'll turn the music down, and then get it going. So that would be, that's kind of my experience. Leah, I don't know, what would you say?
Oh gosh, I feel like there are a lot of favorite moments, but I agree with you. For me, it's been my pleasure to serve, but it has changed the picnic, because we're working nonstop for multiple days at a time, really, because even though the festival has gone back to, after our 2-day experiment, we've gone back to 1 day.
Yes.
Those of us who are working it are working pretty much around the clock, because there's also the kickoff parties, the night at the White Sox, and all that other stuff. So we're always doing that. But I will say that there are some favorite musical moments, or just moments of just transcendence and joy. And I think sometimes I look at some of our divas, and so for instance, when Stephanie Mills, when her music, baby, when they sang that a cappella, that just, actually, KP, that was actually one of your moments, because I was able to capture a little bit of video on my phone, and there's this moment when they're singing the and then somebody's hand goes up in my video, and that's you testifying, because we all were just mesmerized by by Stephanie, she's a real trooper, and she was able to just keep it going. And I actually thought they sounded better a cappella than with the track. So that was
No doubt.
just amazing to me to be able to see that and feel that up close. And reference getting sentimental a little bit, referencing my friend Cynthia again. 2 years ago, um, she had just passed, but I had to kind of soldier on and put my big girl pants on and work, because that's what I'm here to do. And so the day of the festival, which was such an our thing, like it was kind of hard to contemplate being at the picnic without her. And Alan played "I Feel Good Things for You" by Daddy's Favorite, and what he didn't know at the time, and what I didn't, and we talked about this later, was that was the like me and Sense song that we had jammed to at a previous Chosen Few party at oh gosh, what was that restaurant on Randolph where they used to throw? Was it not Red Kiva, but one of those?
Alhambra.
Restaurant row.
Well,
They,
I did it.
huh?
It's on the tip of my tongue. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But one of those at that place, and
Yeah.
when that song was brand new, when that cut first came out, she and I had gone to a Chosen Few party, and that song was played, and we danced in our 5-inch heel boots, which was a terrible idea, but we could not help ourselves because that song was jamming. And so it's a song that's several years old, and so when I heard um, when Alan was bringing it in, it was such a special moment for me personally, because I knew that my friend's spirit was in the place, and that it was going to be a good day despite the heavy feeling that so many of us who loved her, who were at the park still, because we convinced her husband to come out, and other people came out. And I shared that with Alan afterward, and he's like, "That's funny, because I hadn't intended on playing that song. It really just chose me." And then he played it, and that's also on the social media side. It's one of the videos of because there's video of that moment where the crowd literally just loses their mind to that song.
Yeah.
And it's gone viral a few times, like almost every time I post it, because you literally feel the energy and the love and the just soul of all people all together jamming to this song. And what they don't all know is that I feel like that's my friend sent that song for that moment. That was July 2018. So that's a huge. I mean, even though I was like trying not to bawl my eyes out, it just was just such a huge moment to see and feel all those people jamming to that song. And that was our song. Another moment, another diva, and this was actually before I started working at Chosen Few Picnic, but when Teresa Griffin, her first year when she came, and she got stuck in her shirt, but she still sang her face off, that was like, okay, let's bow down. You are the queen, because she got stuck in that shirt because she was trying to take it off. She was uncomfortable and whatever, but she just never broke concentration, and she sang that song. And I just, speaking of that, we've just had so many divas just turn that place out, and it's just been magical to hear them.
Absolutely.
I mean, Evelyn Champagne King dropping it like it's hot, and being like, "I'm happy to be 60. Let me just tell you," and just seeing
And still performing. That's I think what she was saying.
Yeah.
Crystal Waters. Remember when she came out with her dancers, and they were sharp, honey. Like we just. Cece Peniston looking all fly and sexy, like it just, Joycelyn, her voice was just amazing. Just again, I'm sorry, I get caught up, but the divas really they send me. Those are some of the really special moments when they do their thing.
You guys have opened up fully to us and the audience tonight. So thank you for sharing those moments special to you. And certainly this is part of the magic of this festival, right? You talked about community and all of there's so many of those kinds of moments that happen when this community comes together. certainly central to it is the music, the performances by the artists, but the song selections of the DJs, that's another powerful piece. And these guys, many of them have all been on this show, and they're humble, they're mild mannered, but when it comes to the music, right, they're on 10. Can you talk a little bit about how you put together the lineup, and this year being a little bit different? Anything you can share with the Vintage House audience about what they can expect? I mean, we've seen the lineup. We know who's performing. Other friends of the Vintage House show, Carla Prather and Byron Stingley. Can you talk a little bit about the DJs, more about what we can expect from them, given it's going to be a virtual performance this year?
I just want to say this because I'm not always privy. I'm not privy to what they're going to do. They have it in their head. I think they compete against each other a little bit. I'm saying that because and there is always this thing every year: who is going to close? That's like this coveted position to to close the event. That is like the big deal. And so always watch. And what's been so crazy over the years is that people will come up to me and be like, my cousin's a DJ, and can you get me, I want to be a guest DJ, and I have
to do A&R.
That's not one of my jobs. That I do a lot, but I do not do that. And so I have to let them know because it's become to be selected as a guest DJ, with the chosen few, is become a really big deal. And it's gotten to be such a big deal that when somebody asks me, I'm like, oh God, you really are mistaken. Because there is absolutely nothing I can do to help you do that. But with all that said, there is an energy with these guys. I think there's some, they all have, heard each other perform. They do mixtapes, they do this, but I always think they bring something special. I think that, maybe none of them know, what they're going to do. But it's pretty phenomenal every year to kind of watch, what rabbit they pull out of a hat, because, it's you can tell that it's been some thought put into it. Obviously, it'll be interesting this year because, the crowd also brings the magic out of them, right? And they relate very heavily, with the energy of the crowd. So doing a virtual event like this is all new and different. So it's we know that, we're in a very special time, and that people are probably going to be doing very small gatherings in their backyards, on their patios, just maybe in the park as a small group. It's just going to be very different. But I know in their head that will be thinking, that same kind of, energy, like what their focus will be is to make everybody move. So it's a difficult thing. I mean, this whole virtual thing, that we're doing now, it's very hard to get a full reaction. We know that, there's going to be, thousands and thousands of people, even maybe surpassing we know it'll surpass what we normally have in person.
Yeah.
And so the guys are going to have to draw on that, just from social media, seeing who's on and what they're saying. And I do think they get power from that, and they do get energy from that. But yeah, so that's just, my commentary a little bit about, like, I don't know what they're going to do. I do not know. I do know that they are a little competitive, and I will say this to everyone that's listening. I cannot help you if you want to be a guest DJ. Do not call me. Don't call me.
Don't add me. Don't inbox her.
I don't do that. No. So leave me alone.
Submit your mixtapes to the Vintage House Show page, and we'll filter them through.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Because if we see one more email that says, I used to DJ back in Walla Walla in 1984, and what do I need to do to be a chosen few DJ? Like, man, if you don't get your not seeing David Morales and Rod Trent and Lori Brick. Like, these are it's a pantheon of talent. And I mean, we're a city that we're blessed to be from a city where we have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to talent, but there's also worldwide talent. Mike Risk, remember from the Netherlands, remember when he came and turned it out in 2017?
Ooh, God.
Remember Bobby and Steve, the twins from the UK? Like, there's just so much. And our friend Stan Zeff, our buddy, who comes and regularly turns it out.
Yeah.
But just to piggyback on what Kim said about the crowd, I think that they are really important. I know that they are, and it'll be interesting to see how the guys draw what their energy source is. I think we're hoping that people are active in the comments, because I see with Alan's Saturday Night Live show, his comment section is on and popping.
Absolutely.
And I think he draws a lot of inspiration and energy from that, because, well, the last couple of Saturdays, Alan's really been, in a particular way, ministering to my spirit. He's just been on fire. And I'm thinking, well, gosh, if this is the warm up to the picnic, what's he going to do on Saturday? So I think it'll be different. We'll also be, I think, showing some old clips, some classic clips of previous picnics. So we all kind of try to give ourselves. We're all there together, because we all need that. I think, from the performers on the stage to the folks in the tents, we all need each other. And I think if there's a message for us to take in this time right now, we all are one, and we all need each other. And whether we gather in spirit, or we gather online, or we gather in person, we need each other's good, positive energy to get through all the things that we all have to get through in our individual lives. So I think it's going to be quite an experiment. It's kind of hard to know exactly what to expect. I think it's cool, though, that we decided to roll with the punches and try this. I think it's also really cool that we've got Dion Cole as our only guest DJ.
Yes.
I think our 7 chosen few DJs are more than capable of rocking the whole day from 12 a.m. to midnight, but they are always very generous about sharing their stage. And I think to some people, Dion might be an unconventional choice, but I think he's been doing his part during this pandemic to try to bring the music to people, try to bring joy, try to use music as a salve and a healing balm. And anybody who does that and loves disco the way he loves disco is all right with us. So I think it'll be fun. And I think our hope is that whether you're taking a drive on Lakeshore Drive, or you're in your backyard, or you're on your front stoop, or whatever, that we're all there together in spirit, and we're that's the hope. Yeah.
And so with a few minutes left in the show, where will we see you and Kim in the in this virtual experience? Because in order to make it complete, right? Because you're very visible, as you were saying, working hard when the festival is live and in person. But you can't be in the backdrop just because it's going virtual.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm going to tell you, you probably won't see me. I will be there.
Okay.
But, I probably won't be on unless we do something crazy quick. But we're all trying to stay safe. So,
of course,
we're in our location with just,
sheltering in place.
Leah's going to be with us this year, and we're just trying to obviously stay safe, but also have a good time. So maybe I'll pop my head into something, but I typically try not to. I try to stay behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Terry Hunter's tuned in. Kevin Westerfield, they're all sending waves. Yeah.
Hey, what you doing?
Terry said that's the first lady of the chosen few, Kim.
Yes.
That's his kind.
Yes, with your fabulous hair. I think it's weird that we've gone this long without talking about Kim Parham hair, which
Which is
I don't
It's
know how
always
it
laid.
stays perfect
Yes.
the whole day in all that sweat and heat.
not
But you
today.
are famous for your hair, Kim. So you're gonna have to show the people. We're gonna have to
We're gonna have to see it.
a little flash of that beautiful hair that stays in place all day. I
Well,
don't know.
inside, so yeah, I'm inside with no humidity, so maybe I could actually have a hairstyle.
Just give us a little luxurious hair toss.
And I'm gonna walk it off.
Thank you.
And walk off. Yep.
Thank you for calling that out, Leah. We're gonna have to maybe have you as a guest host on the Vintage House Show too, because your question.
No, next year we're gonna have a camera with both of them. We're gonna be interviewing them and trolling them the entire Chosen Few picnic to see what's really going on.
I cuss too much. I say terrible things.
That makes for good television.
Ask for forgiveness later.
It makes for good television, Leah.
It's remarkable television is what it is. Yeah.
There are also many, but you know what? I guess we have to. Yeah, how would we tell some of these stories? Because you can't name names and what have you. But man, there's just anything you do for 30 years and anything you do as a team over 30 years, there's just going to be
There's been some behind the scenes things that need to stay behind
the scenes.
Well, we got good editors. We can edit it out. But
what did you? I'm sorry.
Well, it's just that we've got good editors on our team.
Oh, okay. Well, because I'm a cuss bucket, so I'm just going to just tell you that.
But in addition to this year's festival, we want to ensure that you get a chance to share the narrative of the logistics and the business more than just the 72 hours before the show. So when we're back in studio, because we're normally broadcasting this show from WNUR studios in Evanston, we'd love to figure out a way to have you on there as well. Maybe in the 6-month mark, right, as you're planning for 2021, because we're all praying that all will be better for us to be able to come together.
Come on, vaccine.
Yeah.
Because
and so
spacesuits or whatever. Because I think we can't go 2 years without meeting in person. So we've got to make sure that 2021 is. I'm praying hard that things will be better by then.
And so what? Just spend a moment talking about that decision to go virtual, because it was clearly a tormentous decision, I'm sure. On one hand, on the other hand, the community that you love, and the festival producers love, obviously is an important one, and you did not want to put anyone in harm's way. So. Not that we would have been able to have it, but just share a little bit about, was that process a collaborative one? Did you guys meet with city or state officials, or did you decide on your own? What did that look like?
Leah, I'm gonna let you do it because you wrote it really well. Like beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Go ahead and tell the story.
Well, it was. I think torturous is it was agonizing to make that decision. But we, especially in the earlier days of coronavirus, we saw the numbers, and it's our people who are suffering so mightily, and we just knew that as much as we all need to the gathering and the fellowship, we couldn't put our community at risk like that. And it was hard because, we kept, I think probably February, March, everybody's thinking, but by summertime, because summertime shy is so important for so many of us, right? We thought, okay, this will clear up, but it became evident that it wasn't going to. And so we started talking with our partners at the city level and the state level and the park district, and hearing from them, and we are good citizens always, and so we of course are going to follow the directives that are put forth, but we knew even before talking with them, I think in our heart of hearts, we knew even before we formally made the statement that we were going to have to postpone gathering together to celebrate our 30th year anniversary, which is this year. And that was tough because we knew that it was going to disappoint a lot of people. This also is a business concern. It's something that grew from a family picnic, a family reunion, to it's a major festival. Whether or not some entities notice that or acknowledge that, it's still a big deal. And it's an economic engine. I'm very proud to be a Black-owned business that is a vendor of the chosen few DJs and their event. And there are a lot, our security company and our caterers and other folks. We live off of this. This is important to our economic viability as a community. And so to choose to not meet in person was a really momentous decision, and we didn't take it lightly. And there were probably some tears shed here and there, but we knew safety is the most important thing. That's why as the event has grown over the years, that's why we have those fire lanes and we have all these porta potties and this, that, and the other thing, because good safety is one of those things that is not sexy to talk about or whatever, but we put a lot of thought and care into the safety and comfort of our guests, and whether we meet in person or not, that's still paramount. So it was hard to make the decision, but it was the right thing to do, and we're just praying that 2021 will allow us to meet in Jackson Park together again.
Absolutely. We concur it was the right decision. There's no question about it. Want to take us up and out on a high note. Since this is the Philosophical Grooves edition of Vintage House, we always ask a question of a philosophical nature. We try to get a little... Well, yes, this is a surprise. We did not pre-show or pre-produce this piece. We never do. So it's you're not experiencing anything no one else has ever experienced. And this one is fairly lighthearted because we want to end on a light note. If you know that in your response there is no right or wrong answer, the question for each of you is, if you were to choose or to be a color, what would that color be and why? Like a color in the RGB scheme as opposed to color related to our societal constructs of race and ethnicity and all those things. What color on the spectrum would you be?
Would you go first, Kim? What color are you?
I'm going to say this real quick. Normally, I would say black because I love black and I love to wear black, and I have on black. It's my favorite color. It's for abundance of reasons. One, it's very slimming, very flattering, and it's very. I think even though it's not bright, it's very powerful. To me, it makes a statement. It shows some elegance and some, So I've always that's the color that I gravitate to. And then my second color would be yellow because, again, to me that's just bright and happy and whatever. But the color that I would say would be black, and not just because we are black, but just because it's always been a staple color in my life. I feel comfortable in it, and powerful in it, and ladies, if you're watching, if you have on a good pair of black pumps, you can rock the world. You the pair of black stiletto pumps, you can do anything. So that's where I'm going to leave it. Leah, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, green is my favorite color by far, for lots of reasons. It's verdant. It just symbolizes fertility, the earth, growth. I grew up with a lot of plants. Have plants that are older than me. Well, actually trees now that are older than me. And I grew up under a tree canopy. Our house that I grew up in sits under a tree canopy. So green is just, it's prosperity, it's health, it's the earth, it's vegetables. I know that's a weird one, but yeah, green is my favorite color by far. And as evidenced by one of my green cups. It's also part of my sorority colors, but that's actually, I've loved green way before that. And yeah.
Some of the best answers, and I said it, I preempted it and said there are no right or wrong, but you guys knocked it out of the park. I am going to ask our super duper producer and founder of the Vintage House Show, Lauren Lowry, to close us out.
Ladies, thank you all so much. This was one of our more important shows. The business of house is so important to us, understanding how a lot of people come to these events and just enjoy themselves and never think about the hard work that is put in. And I think people like us know the kind of work that you all do. And we've seen how the Chosen Few picnic has evolved over the years, and we know it doesn't evolve on its own. People like you all continue to make the engine work. I want to just throw in one more thing. I was listening and enjoyed all the conversation, but I always want to think about sort of the future of this this powerful festival that you all run. This is power. There's a lot of power in what you all do with the amount of people that come, the type of marketing and all those other things you do. How do you see the Chosen Few evolving in the future? How do you see marketing and programming? How do you see those things moving forward, 2021, 2022? Where do you see it, 2025, 2030?
Yikes. I'm going to say this has been a running joke, because, as every year, we are not spring chickens. We've been doing this for 30 years. And so as we've been, I don't have any kids, but, they've been, the other DJs and family bring their kids. And I'm like, good, because we need, because, I see us walking up these stairs to the stage. I'm like, we moving kind of slow, y'all. People, you got these, they've got on headphones and you're talking, I can't hear you. And I laugh. I'm like, how long are we going to do this and be cute? When are we going to stop being cute? Because when we stop being cute, I don't know. But, we've always kept, and I'm just going to say this, we've always kept going because we just felt like we couldn't stop. Alan always says that we are a victim of our own success, and we just couldn't stop. And it brings so much joy to the community and the house community that we always feel like we just have to keep going. So when you ask me what are we going to look like in 5 years, at this moment I would say that we're still going to keep going until we can't go anymore. And some days I wish somebody would swoop in and in my fairy tale dream and purchase the Chosen Few picnic, and it becomes this whatever, or that it blossoms out into different cities, and that we can have that kind of epic growth where we're doing this in other states. And these are visions and dreams, and they have the skills. We've got great DJs, and so when I think about things, but then usually you ask me that now. If you ask me that probably the night, Saturday night after the virtual picnic is over, I'd be like, well, no, it's over today. One of the, you were going to ask me what's my favorite part of the picnic, and I was telling Lehia before we started, rolling, is that my favorite part is the end. Like, we work so hard, but when it's over and it's put to bed, I just...
Yes.
It's just like, did it, another one, yeah. And let's take a nap. So yeah, Lauren, that's kind of what I think.
Oh, should I answer? Or I think Kim said it, but I would like to see us do some growth and expansion, and I would like to see, even though 72 hours out right now, I'm exhausted from this year's stuff, but I think that whether it's this particular team of folks who have brought it this far, or we expand that and bring on other partners, I think it's important to have these celebratory moments in our lives, and in this particular moment of our country, of our world. And I'd love to see a chosen few South Africa or a chosen few Senegal or Ghana or, something like that would be, I think, super dope. And as a black business owner who has, I have a consultancy and working with the Chosen Few. They're one of several clients of mine, but I've seen their growth and it's helped my business grow. And I'd like to see more. I'd like to see us build more economies for ourselves. We don't have to go begging. We have both the talent. We just haven't had the capital as festival, and not just our festival, but other Black-led and Black-run festivals and events like with Broccoli City and other things like that in other places. I think all of us are challenged by the economics of it, and I don't know how some unifying force would kind of bring us all together to increase our purchasing power or whatever else, or spawn our own production companies. We utilize others that we don't control those companies. We don't control how they do things, and I would love to see us seed our own production company, not just to work the chosen, to produce the Chosen Few Festival, but others. I think we have more than enough talent in our own backyards to be able to do that. Now, how that's going to get done, I do not know, but I would love to see this be something that the young Cameron Hatchetts and the Ty Hunters of the world, maybe they are the next DJs, but maybe, the Harper Acox and the Hendrix Acox, my children, maybe they are the marketing gurus behind a worldwide festival. I don't know, but I'm hoping that the young people are seeing this and taking note and taking inspiration and deciding how the Chosen Few is going to look for them in 20 years. But I think it's important to keep the music and the culture going.
Train them in the way they should go, right?
Yes. So, someone actually, and I'll shut up after this, but one of my favorite shots ever, it's a still photo of Terry Hunter's youngest son, looking up like this at DJ Alicia while she's DJing, and it's such a powerful moment of, first of all, this beautiful Black boy looking at this beautiful Black woman doing her thing, but it just, that image just transmits so much. And I think it's so important for us to keep that image in mind of the young watching the older, and the older teaching the younger, but also like there needs to be a passing of the baton in a way that I think we're still working out as a house community. So
please repost that. We'd love to share
that photo. Okay. Oh Lord, I gotta find it. Yeah, but I love it. It's just, it's a great, although I'm sure Ty is like, I'm a young man now, Leah, so I don't want you showing that. But it's just it's a great shot. I think there's also a great shot of him looking at his father DJing, which is, and that's one thing I think a lot of people who've been to the picnic, I don't know if they notice this, but sometimes the people change on the stage. It's because the DJs bring their families up to be with them while they're playing. And I think that even though sometimes the stage gets very crowded, I think that's a really cool feature of our event that you don't see other places where, whether it's Jesse and his nieces or Mike Dunn and his family, but his crew of dancers who have been with him, who follow him from place to place, or, Alan and his daughters and his wife and all, it's beautiful to see the intergenerational aspect of that, and seeing it out in the crowd too, with people and their kids.
Happy 30th anniversary to the Chosen Few Picnic and Festival. Lehia Acox, Leah Franklin Acox, Kim Parham, KP. We are thrilled to have had you with us again, days before the first ever virtual Chosen Few picnic. We'll be tuned in noon to 9 p.m. on chosenfewdjs.com and everywhere that you can connect with the Chosen Few DJs. We really appreciate the time. we'll re-air this show on the Vintage House page as well. But we'll tune in and we'll see you in the comment section on Saturday, unless
Yep.
there is a virtual VIP or media tent that, that we need to know about
All
now.
access, baby.
Okay. All right. All right. We
Thanks for
thank you.
having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you, Kevin. And again, thank you all for doing this week after week, month after month. This is so important to the culture, this show. And I appreciate you all for doing this.
We appreciate you and those words. Tune in every Wednesday night. For those who may not know, we're here at 9 p.m. for the at-home edition of the Vintage House Show. And in the future as well, we don't know when, we'll be back on air on 89.3 FM. You can also download any episodes you might have missed of the Vintage House Show on thevintagehouseshow.com. Thank you again, and get some rest and break a leg.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
All right. Be well out there on the West Coast. Kim, hope to see you soon too.
All right.
Everybody be safe and be well.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.